In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Today we will discuss about asexual reproduction in algae, then sexual reproduction in algae, and at the end, life cycles present in algae. Let's start. Asexual reproduction does not involve sexes. It is brought by the formation of specialized reproductive units called spores. There are different types of spores that are present in algae. The first one is the zoospores. The motile spores are called zoospores. Generally, they are ovoid or spherical in shape and are called fusiform. But in certain cases, they are kidney-shaped and are called reniform. They are flagellated and formed in zoosporangium. The second one is the aplanospores. The aplanospores are non-motile spores that lack flagella. These are considered to be zoospores that failed to develop flagella. They produce new plants upon germination. The third one is the hypnospores. Hypnospores are thick-walled, non-flagellated spores with plenty of food reserves. Hypnospores are produced under unfavorable conditions. The fourth one is the akinetes. The vegetative cells round off and become thick-walled and are called akinetes. Akinetes are perinating bodies that can survive under non-favorable conditions. The fifth one is the endospores. In some cases, the protoplast divide to form spherical units which secrete new walls. They are called endospores. Exospores. In some species, the cell wall ruptures at distal end and spores are cut off from the exposed protoplast and they are called exospores. Tetraspores. 4 non-motile spores are produced per sporangium and are called tetraspores. Monospores. A single non-motile spore is produced in each sporangium and is called monospore. Autospores. Autospores are actually aplanospores, which appear identical to their parent cells, hence referred to as autospores. Our next topic is sexual reproduction in algae. Sexual reproduction involves fission of two haploid cells called gametes, which fuse to form zygote. And the process of fission is called fertilization. The smaller or active gametes are termed as male gametes, whereas the larger and passive ones are called female gametes. The gametes may be produced on the same thallus and are called monoecious or homothallic. Or gametes may be produced on different thalli and are called dioecious or heterothallic. Generally, the sexual reproduction may be isogamous or heterogamous type. Isogamous sexual reproduction. If the two gametes similar in size and structure, called isogametes, fuse to form zygote. It is called isogamy. And the sexual reproduction is called isogamous sexual reproduction. It is the simplest and most primitive type of sexual reproduction found in simplest form of algae. Heterogamous sexual reproduction. If two gametes dissimilar in size and structure, called heterogametes, fuse to form zygote, it is called heterogamy, and the sexual reproduction is known as heterogamous type sexual reproduction. It is advanced type of sexual reproduction. The heterogamous sexual reproduction is of two types. The first one is the anisogamy. Anisogamy involves fusion of larger passive gamete or female gamete and a smaller active gamete or male gamete. The gametes are produced in ordinary vegetative cells usually. The second type of heterogamous sexual reproduction is oogamy. Oogamy is a highly advanced type of sexual reproduction, which is a characteristic of filamentous algae. The gametes are produced in gametangia. The male gamete producing structures are called antheridia, whereas the female gamete producing structures are called oogonia. A single large egg or ovum is produced in oogonium, and many small active male sperms are formed in each antheridium. Our next topic is life cycles in algae. The series of events through which an organism passes is called life cycle. Generally, 5 types of life cycles are found among sexually reproducing algae. The first one is Haplontic life cycle. The life cycle during which the haploid phase is long and represents almost all the stages of life except the diploid phase, which is represented by zygote, is called Haplontic life cycle. A sexual haploid plant with only zygote diploid is called haplont. The haplontic life cycle is exhibited by most members of the chlorophyta. This is the haplontic life cycle. The main plant body is haploid gametophytic plant, which bearing the gametangia, which produces the two types of gametes. A syngamy takes place and zygote is produced. Then a zygotic meiosis occurs, which produce the meiospores. Then meiospores germinate and again develop into the gametophytic plant, which is haploid. The second cycle is the Diplontic life cycle. The life cycle in which most part of the life cycle is occupied by diploid phase and the haploid phase is represented by gametes only is called Diplontic life cycle. A sexual plant in which the haploid stage is represented by haploid gametes is called diplont. This type of cycle is present in all the members of Bacillariophyta. This is the Diplontic life cycle in which a diploid sporophyte bearing diploid gametangia, which undergoes gametogenic meiosis and produce two different kind of gametes, which undergoes syngamy and produces a diploid zygote, and which germinate and again develop into the diploid sporophyte. The third one is the Diplohaplontic life cycle. The life cycle in which there is a haploid and diploid phase which alternate regularly with each other and is called Diplohaplontic life cycle. The plant having two cytologically different kinds of individuals that exhibit alternation of generations during its life cycle is called Diplobiont. In this type of life cycle, the plants possess two distinct vegetative thalli with different chromosome numbers. One of these is haploid, reproduces sexually and known as gametophyte. The other is diploid, reproduces sexually and called sporophyte. Both generations alternate with each other. So the sporophytic plant, which is diploid, bearing the sporangium, which undergoes sporogenic meiosis, which produce the haploid meiospores, which germinates and develop into the haploid gametophytic plant. Bearing the sex organs, having different gametes, syngamy takes place, zygote is formed, which germinate and again develop into the sporophytic, diploid sporophytic plant. The fourth one is the Haplodiplobiontic life cycle. The life cycle that is characterized by presence of two diploid phases and one haploid phase is called Haplodiplobiontic life cycle. This life cycle is also called triphasic life cycle. And this life cycle is normally present in Polysiphonia, a member of most advanced type of the algae Rhodophyta. What happened in this life cycle? A haploid gametophytic plant bearing sex organs, having two different kinds of gametes which undergo syngamy and produce the diploid zygote. The diploid zygote germinate and produce the carposporophyte, a diploid carposporophyte. The carposporophyte bearing the carposporangia. In carposporangia, carpospores produce, which is diploid. The diploid carpospores germinate and develop into the tetrasporophyte, diploid tetrasporophyte, which bearing that tetrasporangia. Tetrasporangia undergoes meiosis and produce the tetraspores, which is again diploid, which germinate and form the a haploid gametophytic plant, and then the cycle repeats again. The last one is the haplobiontic life cycle. The life cycle in which there are two well-developed haploid phases and the diploid phase is represented by zygote only and called haplobiontic life cycle. The main plant body is haploid gametophyte, which having the sex organs with different kinds of gametes which undergo syngamy and produce the diploid zygote. The diploid zygote undergo meiosis and produce haploid carposporophyte. Carposporophyte bearing carposporangia, which produce the carpospores. Carpospores germinate and produce again the haploid gametophytic plant, and the cycle repeats again.